Good morning. It is 9:08 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? My name is Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by our friends at Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners. You get those at betterwater.com. Very hype, very excited. We got Jason Whitlock back in studio. Kicking off the show immediately, we're just going right in. I love it, man. What's up, Jason?
Chris, it's great to be back. Great to talk with your audience again. It's a little early in the morning for me, but not really. I'm old. I'm up by 5.
You're
in bed by 9.
Man, that's what I try to do. It never works out. It never works out.
You probably got kids, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
your life's a little bit more unpredictable than
my
mine.
life is definitely unpredictable. 3, 5, 7, and 11.
Holy.
So I'm in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, you got a good wife.
You're damn right I do.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if you want to send my kids to a good summer camp, it's free to do. Hit like and subscribe on YouTube.
There you go.
Right now, we're more looking at a work camp. So, you know, if we get the likes and the subscribes up, we're thinking about baseball camp.
There you go. You got baseball players.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's not baseball and golf. You don't get injured too much in baseball and golf. That would be. I played football.
Okay.
I had to earn my education.
All right, so I had this take last week. Golf is an incredibly boring sport to watch on TV. I can't do it. Why do people like golf on TV? Is this insulting?
You're right. If you overthink it, you're right. Because there's nothing really going on. Guy does the same kind of swing, and there's a little tiny white ball that you really can't see on TV. You just wait. Where's it going to land? But I don't know. I enjoy it, and I even enjoy it post Tiger Woods. Not to the level when it was Tiger and he was chasing Jack Nicklaus and there was all that history, but I watching Tiger gave me an affinity for golf, and I can watch the guys run around and, you know, I can sit and watch for a little tiny white ball to drop on the screen, and somehow I get excited.
I feel like you could do that with just about any sport, knowing you.
No. I struggle with soccer. I struggle with a lot of sports.
See, I feel like Olympic ping pong is far more entertaining than
it probably
golf
is.
Any day
it probably
of the week.
is. But I will say that there is a mental discipline, and you're like walking a tightrope for 18 straight holes for 72 shots or 80 shots or whatever. You're walking a tight. It's like I understand the mental toughness and the mental focus that it takes to play golf at a high level, not let your frustration. You have a bad shot, you want to slam your clubs, you want to get frustrated. You can't do it. You're walking a tightrope for 4.5 hours. And, you know, but you got to be down in the weeds to understand it on that level.
You ready for a great radio segue?
Yes.
Mental toughness and focus. That's what you're trying to build with Fearless Roll Call. Roll
Absolutely.
Call 3.0. You got an awesome event coming May 2nd and 3rd in Nashville. You're going to be at 3rd and Lindsley with Tucker Carlson, and then you're going to be down at Rocketown with another gang of great speakers, including my pastor, Alan Jackson. Why are you doing this event? What's the thought process behind it? I'm really, really excited about this.
As me and Tucker are in alignment on this, there is a problem with young men. They're purposeless. They're frustrated. They're not dating at the same level. They're not marrying at the same level. They've been demonized. Male toxicity or toxic masculinity has been demonized. And then, you know, just quite frankly, because I hate to put a skin color on it, but I do. White men have really been demonized, and they've been bullied. And I'm trying to encourage them to stand up and stand their ground and defend themselves, because it's important for all of American culture. We need male leadership in this country. We need responsible, faith-based men to have leadership positions in this country. It's part of the reason why we have so much chaos. And I'm about to slide off on the road or on a different highway. I just went and watched 2 nights ago this movie Sinners. Have you heard about Sinners?
I have heard about it, but I have not seen it.
Yeah,
tell me about the movie.
Did great box office.
Yes.
It did great box office. And so I live in Green Hills. So you guys, I live in Green Hills. Do the math, do the demographics or whatever. But I went on a Monday night. Monday night at 10 p.m. I go see this movie. It was packed.
Really?
Black kids, young black people are going to see this movie in massive numbers. I'm black. Just for your listeners that don't know me or haven't seen me, but I'm black. But the movie, the messaging of this movie that's doing great box office, it's kind of the talk of Hollywood last weekend. I think did 60 million in box office. It's some kind of horror movie. But the overall message to the movie is white people are the devil. And in order to be happy, we must separate from them as black people. It's set in 1930s Mississippi or whatever, and it's this narrative tale about pitting black versus white, and that white people are the devil, and it's people are so into this racial narrative that black and white are mortal enemies and locked in combat, and they can't see that what's really being slammed is Christianity. And so if you really watch the movie, it's an assault on a biblical worldview. It's an assault on Christianity, and they've pitted black and white as enemies, and this is overall in the culture in real life and in this movie, to disguise the fact that the real attack is about separating black and white Christians from each other so that secularism and Marxism can overtake our culture, and identity politics and the lack of, merit, the meritocracy being eliminated. So there's this, again, popular movie that young black kids are going to see, and the messaging is, hey, white people are the devil. And that's part of the reason why I do roll call, because I want us to see each other as allies in Christ. We have this shared tradition here in America. We have this great country that our ancestors all participated in elevating this country to the status that it was, the most powerful, successful, opportunity-rich country in the history of the planet. And we're destroying it because we're letting little surface level differences like skin color and melanin level separate us rather than recommitting and staying focused on our biblical values. And so, yeah, I have a big dream and vision of making Tennessee the harmony state.
I love that.
It starts here in Nashville. Music City should be the harmony city, where we do harmony better than every place else in America, and that's what Roll Call's about. And so I'm glad Tucker Carlson's participating with me on Friday at 3rd and Lindsley, and I'm glad that Pastor Doug Wilson and E.W. Jackson and Corey Brooks coming in from Chicago and Alan Jackson and Anthony Walker are helping me on Saturday. Great event, and just like, I don't know if this was last time, but I've been back on the radio station since my last visit here, and guys, I got a great deal for you because I need you to come, because I think many people think the culture war is over and they're relaxing. Hey, Donald Trump's in office.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
We got momentum at our back, and he's signing all these executive orders. And no, we must stay engaged. And so Chris, I've gone the complete opposite direction here on Roll Call this year. I'm going to lose money because I'm talking about personally, because I'm going to bring you into this event for virtually no money and let you engage with myself, these ministers, Tucker Carlson, for incredible prices that are going to cost me and a couple of my friends a lot of money. Go to fearlessrollcall.com right now. Use the promo code 997, 50% off all tickets. That means for $100, you can be sitting in 3rd and Lindley with me, Tucker Carlson, Randy Houser, Steve Byrne, the comedian. You're going to get the greatest night of Friday night entertainment you can get at 3rd and Lindley for just $100. Use the promo code 997. Saturday, use that promo code $50. You come to Rocketown, we feed you a great lunch from Mission Barbecue. We entertain you with more music. We entertain you with speakers. I couldn't give you a better deal than this. Nashville, fearlessrollcall.com right now. If you're like me and you haven't given up on the thought of harmony, if you want to fight the demons that are trying to separate us and turn everything into a racial issue where we can't even understand good and bad. As I think we talked last time, I can't remember if it was you or on the other show, but when the Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf situation transpired, and somehow things have gotten so cloudy that we can't see. Hey, man, a 17-year-old kid was murdered in cold blood over a little verbal spat.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
This is simple. There's right and wrong in this world. This isn't some race case.
No.
This is about right and wrong
And you shouldn't be able to fundraise off of it.
Yes.
You shouldn't be able to get yourself a new car and rent a new $900,000 house off the back of a homicide, no matter what color you are.
Yes. And so in reaction to that, I'm not going to do a GoFundMe as Gibson go and raise money off. I'm going to lose money by inviting you to come join me, Alan Jackson, Tucker Carlson, other people. Let's join hands together and be a symbol that here in Nashville, here in Tennessee, we do harmony better than anybody.
I got a question for you. So we talk about Christianity a lot on my show, and I do feel like we're in a revival right now. There's a revival moment happening in this country when it comes to Christianity. But I'm curious your take on Christianity in the black community. Now,
you just asked the $1 million question.
Because
you ain't scared. But go ahead.
But this was one of the most Christian groups for the longest time, for many, many years, and the community was strong. And we've seen, I feel like since the civil rights movement, we've seen almost a horseshoe effect, where the black community has gone from fighting against segregation to achieving, sort of harmony, to now fighting for segregation. And I think that the lack of Christianity has a lot to do with that. And I wonder what your thoughts are.
You've nailed it. And it's why I can be seen as polarizing and people like, man, what's Whitlock? I can't believe he's saying that. But it's true. The black church has been totally politicized. It's been overtaken by politics. It's a Democratic convention virtually every Sunday. And they'll lace their politics with a few scriptures and a few thoughts about Jesus Christ. But the overall messaging is about black liberation theology and what's good for the Democratic Party and what's good for feminism. And those are just facts.
Well, and from the outside looking in, it does seem like the black church has an overwhelming aim towards the female population, and it's leaving the men in the community rudderless.
There's no question about it. The black man has been run out of the black church or has left the black church, partially because, look, church is a family affair. And so when you destroy the nuclear family, you're taking the man not just out of the house, you're taking him out of the church. And so that male leadership, that patriarchal leadership that's explained in the Bible has been removed when 80% of your kids are being born into a single parent situation. Let's don't be surprised that there are consequences to that. And the consequences are like it undermines and destroys the church and lets the church turn into something that's about feelings and affirming feelings. It's about compromise constantly. What can we do to make people feel good? And the church isn't really about that. The church is about obedience and repentance and seeking and not the pursuit of happiness. People got this whole thing jacked up like we're here on this planet to pursue happiness. If you have a biblical understanding, we're here on this planet to pursue holiness. We're here for a very brief time, and we should use it to prepare ourselves to be with our King eternally. And so you have to pursue holiness. We're pursuing happiness. And so when Jason Whitlock pursues happiness, he ends up at a McDonald's drive-thru. He ends up at a strip club. He ends up doing what Shannon Sharpe, I don't know if you guys are paying attention to the sports world, but I'm in the sports world, where Shannon Sharpe, the ESPN broadcaster, Hall of Fame football player, has blown up his career because at 54, 55 years old, he's screwing a 19-year-old OnlyFans model. And now it's probably she's accusing him of rape, and it's cost him his life. But when you pursue happiness, when you don't deny yourself, and again, we're instructed to deny ourselves because we're foolish and we have this sin nature, and we need to submit and serve and obey. The whole duty of man, obey and fear God. We're not doing that. We're pursuing happiness rather than pursuing holiness. And just to connect all the dots, marriage is an institution and a covenant God created for us to pursue holiness. Because and I'm an unmarried man, and so I'm talking about what I know, that being unmarried it makes you pursue happiness and it makes you do unrighteous things because men like to have sex. And just like Shannon Sharp is torched his life, single, several baby mamas, all this. He's torched his life because he didn't pursue holiness, and the world rewarded him for that for a long time. But eventually, it all catches up with you, and it has. And so, yeah, as it relates to the black church, it's run by single mothers. It caters to single mothers. There are black men in leadership positions, but everything that comes out of their mouth is being said to please the black woman, because if she leaves, his tithing goes down. She's the breadwinner. The tithe goes down. And so in their pursuit of power, the black woman, and seeing herself as this matriarchal leader, and they put out all these movies from The Woman King to the Black Panther movies. People didn't watch them properly. They were all celebrations of the matriarchy. The first Black Panther that featured the male Black Panther, the whole movie was about him doing what the women in Wakanda told him to do. That's what the entire movie was about. He just kept following the instructions of his mother, his sister, his aunties, and every woman. Anything that came out of a woman's mouth, he just did. And then the second one, when the Black Panther, the actor, and Chadwick Boseman or Chadwick, when he died and his sister became the Black Panther. That was just a movie about look at these black queens. They're all warriors. They're out slaying men. All the messaging in black culture is about the greatness and the holiness and the righteousness and the fearlessness of the strong black woman. And she'll lead you here, she'll lead you there. Now, your kids, their pants will be hanging off their butt. Their SAT score will be horrible. Their GPA, their incarceration rate will be astronomical and out of line. They won't get married. They'll have several baby mamas. The results of the matriarchy are horrible. Kids will be violent. They'll be like Carmelo Anthony. If they feel any sort of disrespect, they'll feel like they can respond with a level of disrespect or violence. The results are horrible, but we've been psyoped through movies, television, talk shows, entertainers that, oh, man, this black matriarchy, this female leadership, it's the greatest thing ever. And it's, why do you think Joe Biden, hey, I'm going to name a black woman vice president. Hey, I'm going to name a black woman to the Supreme Court. He's rewarding black women for leading the black family straight to hell.
It's unbelievable. These are the conversations that you're going to get May 2nd and May 3rd at Roll Call 3.0 with Jason Whitlock, Tucker Carlson. Tickets on sale now. You can get them at, 50% off?
50, promo code 997. Go to fearlessrollcall.com right now. Get in the door with me and Tucker on Friday for $100. Roll Call Saturday, you can get in for $50. You get a great meal, about $35 meal from Mission Barbecue for that. I'm footing the bill for you to come be holy, to come be harmonious with a diverse group of people. I got my friend I went to college with named Corey Brooks. He leads a mega church in the inner city of Chicago. He spoke at the RNC.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
This past year. He is coming down with 100 of his guys from Chicago to participate in this. We want to be the symbol and the example. We do harmony. We come together under Christ better than any place else on the planet, right here in Nashville, Tennessee. That's the vision. That's why I moved here in 2020. I wanted to promote this idea. I wanted to lead a movement that connected us and brought us all back under one God, not one political party, not one political ideology, under what's in that Bible, because that's what made America great. That's what protects our freedom of speech. That's what protects all of our freedoms. Our freedoms come from God,
amen,
not the government.
Jason Whitlock's in studio. We're going to be hanging out for a little bit. It is 9:27 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Sorry, bro, we went long.
Huh.
You got time to hang out for a little while?
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products? With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Good morning. It's 9:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. In an early morning social media post, President Trump has announced that he's suing Perkins Coie, the law firm that hired Fusion GPS at the behest of Hillary Clinton during the 2016 presidential campaign. Fusion GPS manufactured the fake dossier that was the basis of the Russian hoax. In March, Trump revoked the security clearance and canceled government contracts for Perkins Coie. An Obama-appointed judge temporarily blocked parts of the president's order. New this morning, ABC News reporting that the U.S. has presented a new proposal to Ukraine for ending the war with Russia.
A little about a concrete proposal for a ceasefire in Ukraine. But we know that in private, the Russians have been speaking to Steve Whitlock, Trump's envoy. And after those conversations, we now understand from a senior Ukrainian official that the U.S. has presented a proposed plan for a ceasefire to the Ukrainians.
ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge there. Representatives from the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine, they're all in London today to discuss that proposal. And the Tennessee Parole Board recommending a full pardon for country music star Jelly Roll on the recommendation of Davidson County Sheriff Darren Hall.
He was first arrested at the age of 16 years old for aggravated robbery. He was then in and out of jail and prison for years on different charges. Jelly Roll has been open and honest about his criminal history. He's also used his platform to advocate for and educate others in similar situations.
Channel 4's Alexandria Adams. The pardon will be up to Governor Bill Lee to approve. Stocks still trading higher this morning. The Dow Jones Industrials rallied over 1,000 points, now at 1,080. The NASDAQ is up 689, and the S&P 500 index plus 172. That's the latest news. We've got your weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey, it's Chris Hand from my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Listen, if you're living with back pain, knee pain, or nerve pain, you know you can put an end to that, right? Like you know that we could end that for good. The Wellness Institute of Nashville is actually changing lives with this non-surgical drug-free treatments that target the root cause of your pain. So you can forget the pills, you can skip the surgery because these guys specialize in non-surgical spinal decompression. This is a high-tech therapy that will actually heal your spine and your nerves naturally. Now, Dr. Mitchell, he's trained all over the globe, and Dr. Ashley is an expert in holistic healing and advanced chiropractic care. So whether you're dealing with sciatica or neuropathy or herniated discs, they've got real solutions. And right now, you can get that spinal decompression for 47% off. They have the Big 47 deal happening right now at the Wellness Institute of Nashville in honor of our 47th president. So don't waste another day living in pain. Call the Wellness Institute today, 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009. The sooner you call, the sooner you heal. Visit painisbad.com. It's 9:39, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners. Hey, since we have Jason in studio, will you let him know why you need a water filter on your home?
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
BetterWater.com. We love those guys. Great sponsor.
BetterWater.com. You know, I just got this new renovated house, and so I can, with this filter, I can drink water straight out of my kitchen sink.
Yes, sir.
What? Give me. Go ahead and upsell me a little bit more.
BetterWater.com. They can do reverse osmosis units, UV light filters. They can get it for the whole home. So it's like whatever's coming out of any faucet, or they can do it right under your sink or for your fridge or whatever you need.
Awesome.
Yeah, they're great.
Better. I'm gonna look into that today.
BetterWater.com. So me and Jason have been laughing during the commercials. He's surprised that I had the green light yesterday, Mason, to talk about Kanye West.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that you had the green light to talk about Kanye West.
Yeah. We talked about it, didn't we?
That was a heck of a conversation.
So Kanye West puts out a tweet, and he explains this new song that he's releasing called Cousin. And in the tweet, he says, this song is about my cousin who's in jail right now for killing a pregnant lady, which you kind of breeze by that very fast, because then you get to the rest of the tweet. And he said he killed her after I said we're not going to look at dirty magazines anymore. And he said my dad always had Playboys, but the magazines in the top of my mom's closet were a bit different. My name's Kanye West, and I blanked my cousin's blank until I was 14 years old, and saying that he had an incestuous sexual relationship with a cousin, and he would perform oral sex on him.
Said that they mimicked what they saw in those magazines.
And we had a long conversation about how porn is an absolute weapon.
There's a book written by E. Michael Jones, a Catholic apologist, one of the great Catholic apologists in America. And it's about sexual liberation, Damiendo libido, something. Anyway, E. Michael Jones, look it up. Sex is a tool. Pornography is a tool of control. And that's why, I don't know, you're not a Catholic. Neither am I.
I grew up Catholic.
Oh, you grew up Catholic. Are you aware of the history, like that Catholics and American Jews had a long battle in this country about pornography and about the TV and movie industry and what kind of sex could be shown in TVs and movies? There used to be this thing called the Legion of Decency, led by Catholic lawyers that tried to hold Hollywood to a certain standard.
Well, this is why in the old TV shows, mom and dad would have twin beds.
Yes.
And if they had a queen bed in one room, then two adults couldn't be sitting on the bed. You had to have 1 foot on the floor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was all sorts of crazy rules.
Yes. And so I think around 1965, 64, they got pornography as a free speech issue rather than an obscenity issue. And so it's now seen as a part of free speech. It's not a part of free speech. Pornography is a tool to control people, to make them more immoral. And this isn't me hopping on some soapbox, because anybody that's ever listened to me knows that I have a very I lived a very worldly life for a long time. I'm not somebody with a pole up my rear end. I'm not some prude or whatever. But I have come into a full understanding of, like, how did we get here? How did we get to where teachers in 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade want to talk to your kids about their sexuality and their gender? Yep. How did we get here to where family-friendly, child-friendly drag shows? How is this even a conversation? Yeah. It's a slippery slope that was planted a long time ago and has been many, many years in the making. And if we're not willing to address that, if we're not willing to address, like, porn is way too accessible over all these social media apps, way too accessible on the internet. This is obscenity being used to pervert us and to disconnect us, to promote nihilism. This is what, at the root of all of this immorality and degradation that's overtaking America, it's porn.
Yeah.
And this is where this is what I said yesterday on my show about where I give Kanye credit. And Kanye is nuts. But I do think he actually, by being this level of transparent, He was trying to spark the exact conversation you had yesterday,
Yep.
and that's where I got to tip my hat off to him. Like, hey, man, he's crazy like a fox here by admitting that, hey, man, I'm looking at these porn magazines, because this is what's happening with young people.
Yes.
He's looking at a magazine 25 years ago, let's say.
Imagine what a kid is looking at on their phone today. It's dude, it's so true.
At 6, 7, 8, 9,
Yes.
10 years old.
Yes.
Because if they're not on their phone, they're on their PlayStation or Xbox. They have access to this.
Yep. One of the best things that you can do is keep your kids off tech, period.
Yes.
So that's what we do. Like my 11-year-old very rarely is on tech. And then when she does get on tech, it's, we have a Game Boy Color, and she's like, "Oh, this is cool. This is great." Or a Nintendo 64. We're not jumping online. We're not playing video games with strangers. We're not doing that kind of stuff. And when you're on the internet, it's so crazy, man. And a lot of these public schools, they just give the Chromebook right over to the kids, and you're free to do what you want with it. And these kids are accessing some grotesque porn, like wild stuff.
I was a kid that probably by the time I was 11, 12, I had a Playboy magazine or two under my mattress of my bed. And I'm not bragging, or I'm not even saying that's a good thing. But what I'm saying is, like, I'm 57. And so 45 years ago, I got a Playboy magazine under my bed. And I'm thinking about kids today and what they can get on their phone, on any of these iPads, any of these things that they're given. And Kanye's being real, like, I just looked at stuff in a magazine and me and my cousin acted it out. This porn that they show you, the detail, the level, and kids are looking at this, and we think they're not acting it out, and then I'm going to connect the whole dots and all of it back to what we were talking about previously as it relates to the destroyed family structure that's invading all demographics, but it's most acute among African Americans. And where that destroyed family structure is when mom and dad aren't supervising together, and now it's just mom or grandmama or grandfather, and they're overwhelmed. They're past their prime for that type of role, or they're working too many jobs. They're too tired. They have too much responsibility. And kids are now left to their own devices. When I grew up as a 57-year-old, when I was a kid, there was one TV in the house. There was one phone line. There was a record player. Now, everybody they don't have to leave their room. They got a TV in there. They got a phone in there. They can put on headsets and block out the entire world. Everybody's off in their own little world. And Snoop Dogg and all the degenerate people have Cardi B. I was just yesterday, where was I, where a gentleman told me, the ADT guy that was setting up my home security was saying he had a 2-month-old daughter, and she was watching some cartoon directed at kids.
Is it Coco Melon?
I think Cardi B's a part of this.
Is it?
A Cardi B song was a part of this, and I'm like, your 2-year-old kid, and again, it wasn't one of Cardi B's crazy songs, but they're just introducing Cardi B to your children.
Yeah, on Baby
2 years old.
Shark. On Baby Shark. She was on Baby Shark.
Cardi B, her song WAP is her most popular song. Yeah. They're introducing your child to this.
Well, even worse, they do stuff like Lil Nas X.
Yes.
Where they'll get a guy like Lil Nas X, and they'll have Old Town Road, and they'll put Billy Ray Cyrus on it. And now the adults are in, and everybody loves the song. And then he's on the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, and then he's now not a kids artist anymore. He's doing a lap dance for Satan, a gay lap dance in the next video.
In prison, naked with a bunch of other male prisoners, and all of it's nuts. It's by design, and I'm not to oversell here, but you ask why I do this roll call deal every year. This is why people need to be mindful and made aware of what they're doing. They're coming for your kids.
100%. And the porn in the homes, I mean, you look at the studies, like I don't even think that you can make the argument against porn without even invoking religion. It leads to depression and anxiety. You have twice the chance of getting a divorce if you're using it. It's going to rip apart your family. The way these kids are being raised on it, and the incel movement, I think, is definitely correlating together. And yeah, you don't even have to go into Matthew 5:28.
Unhealthy sexual expectations.
Yeah.
And because they put all this makeup on them. The women got boob jobs, breast jobs, lip jobs. And the next thing you know, you're looking at a very attractive woman who may have small breasts. And you're like, well, she's not perfect. I'd have to get her a boob job or what. She has to have some invasive surgery to live up to my standard of sexual. It's killing us. And there's a guy that I work with very closely on my Fearless project. His name's TJ Moe, and he's one of the greatest human beings I ever met. He's probably, TJ's 34, 35 now, lived a very, very biblically based life. And we talk about all kinds of things, and I tell him, like, I'm so jealous that my understanding, like, TJ was a virgin on his wedding night, and TJ was a Missouri wide receiver.
Good for him.
Good-looking guy, great athlete, a wide receiver at Mizzou, played in the SEC, virgin on his wedding night when he's probably 25, 26, and so was his wife. And he talks about the benefit of, like, hey, man, because I didn't have all these sexual experience, me and my wife, this is all I know, and this is awesome.
Yeah.
And someone like me who did all this foolish stuff and swam out into the middle of the ocean, basically in this sexual degeneracy deal, it changes your expectations, and it's hard for you to get back to reality. It's hard for you to return to normal and what God intended for you. And trust me, I'm doing it. I've done it, and I've been at this a long time. But you can avoid all of that if you save yourself for marriage. And trust me, you'll be thrilled. It'll be like the first time all over again every time if you save yourself for marriage. This sexual liberation that they have promoted for decades. It's a tool to control you. It's a tool to get you to believe that whatever pleasures your most private part is your central identity. That's what they've done.
Yeah.
People, I'm heterosexual. I'm gay. These are my important. No, you're an image bearer of Christ. You're a Christian. That's your most important identity. But by introducing sex and making that front and center, everybody, what's my gender? What's my sexual? How do I get off? That I have to support how I get off sexually in all of my political decisions.
Yep.
No, your political decisions should be, if our mind is right, what is best for the American family? What is best for God's covenantal relationship between man and woman? If we voted on that, now we're taking care of kids. Now we're building a society. All great societies have been built off the nuclear family, but we haven't prioritized that. We've prioritized our sexuality and every other feeling, instant gratification thing that we've made an idol. We've prioritized that, so fearlessrollcall.com.
Listen, I can't wait for this event, man. Me and the wife are very, very excited.
Awesome.
Friday, May 2nd, you're at 3rd and Lindsley with Tucker Carlson and some comedy and some music. Then you're over at Rocketown on Saturday with my pastor, Pastor Alan Jackson, along with some other great ministers and pastors, having just the best conversations that you need to have. And you can get your tickets 50% off using promo code 997 right now at fearlessrollcall.com. That's fearlessrollcall.com. Jason Whitlock is in studio. Is there anything before we close here that we didn't get to that you kind of earmarked and said, I want to make sure I mention this?
No, there's not, because you let me talk about Kanye West, and I thought that was one of the most important things that happened this week, that will happen this week.
I think culturally, this is an important conversation to have, and it's a unique opportunity to have it because of the broad span of audience that pays attention to Kanye, whether they love him or hate him.
It was so controversial. We never see anybody be this transparent. It got a lot of attention. Most people's reaction, oh, Kanye, he's gay and he's crazy. And it's like, no, he's drawing attention to the real problem of pornography.
Yep.
And he should, for smart people, he should be sparking a conversation like, and people should get transparent with themselves. You don't have to get transparent with the world. Get transparent with yourself.
Yep.
We've all had some experience, some level of experience, either a Playboy magazine or Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues with girls with strings up their booty. We've all had it, and we know the impact of it, and we should talk about it because it's connected to why our kids, your kids, are so vulnerable right now in this country.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. FearlessRollCall.com to get tickets to that event. Roll Call 3.0 is happening May 2nd and May 3rd. Jason Whitlock in studio. I appreciate the time. As always, my man, you are always welcome here on the Chris Hand Show.
Chris, thank you so much. God bless. Love your audience. Promo code 997. Come join me.
FearlessRollCall.com. That's Jason Whitlock. It's 9:54 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, it's Chris Hand for my friends at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Spring is here, and Busy Bee is bringing the savings to you. Right now, you can cash in on some serious rebates, like $800 back on a mini split or 17-SEER heat pump, $500 back on a 15 or 16-SEER heat pump, $300 back for a duct sealing or repair, and $50 back for each tune-up you get. Now, here's the smart move. You ready for this? This is the play. Join the Beehive Club, okay? You get that spring tune-up, you collect a $50 rebate. Then when fall rolls around, you get the fall tune-up, you get another $50 rebate. That's $100 back, and if you're doing napkin math, that pays for your Beehive Club membership for the year, and Busy Bee will make it so easy for you, they'll even handle all the rebate paperwork. Members of the Beehive Club also get 3 annual tune-ups, 10% off all repairs, priority front-of-the-line service, no overtime or holiday fees, and $100 annual accrued replacement credit, maxing out at $1,000. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Call them today, 615-775-7833, 615-775-7833, BusyBeeHVAC.com.
Good morning, 10 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Partly cloudy right now. It's 74. We're headed to 83 later. More on the forecast in just a moment. Fresh information about the Tennessee traffic stop involving Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Just the News is reporting that the deported El Salvadoran man had been driving an SUV that was owned by another man who himself was deported after pleading guilty to smuggling illegal aliens in 2020. That information was part of a Homeland Security intelligence document. In Tennessee's traffic stop, Abrego Garcia told police that SUV belonged to his boss and that he was driving the people inside to a construction work site. A warning about an invasive destroyer that's showing up more and more in Tennessee. The spotted lanternfly has been spotted once again.
The Tennessee Department of Agriculture recently found the spotted lanternfly on a resident's private property in Hermitage. Entomologists say the insect can eat off many trees and crops in our state, making wood product businesses and fruit growers especially vulnerable. Infested trees may exhibit wilting, defoliation, dieback, yield loss, and in severe cases, death.
That's News Channel 5's Kelsey Gibbs. Now, if you see one of these lanternflies, take a photo and then kill it. Upload the photo to the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. Saturday is National Prescription Drug Take Back Day, and Kroger says it is once again hosting drug take back events across Tennessee. Anyone can drop off unwanted bottles from the medicine cabinet at designated Kroger locations in Franklin, Gallatin, Germantown, and in Hendersonville, among others. You can check your local store before heading out this weekend. Ocean County, New Jersey, a wildfire raging out of control through the Pinelands, a vast forest of pines in the center of the state. Thousands of residents there have now been evacuated.
No lights, no power, no gas stations open, convenience stores, everything's closed. There's cops on every corner. It's just a very eerie feeling.
8,500 acres have burned. Heavy winds are fueling the flames. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent taking China to task in a keynote address before the Institute of International Finance today.
Treating China, the second largest country in the world, as a developing country is absurd. While it has been at the expense of many Western markets, China's rise has been rapid and impressive. If China wants to play a role in the global economy commensurate with its actual importance, then the country needs to graduate up. We welcome that.
Bessent's speech comes as the Trump administration's calling for a rebalancing of the world's financial system. Stocks are still trading sharply higher today. The Dow Jones Industrial's up 894 points. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
It's 10:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, how are you? It's Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. Thank you again to my friend Jason Whitlock for coming through last hour. Jason's great. Fearlessrollcall.com if you want to go see Jason. They have a 2-day event, May 2nd and May 3rd. Promo code 997. 997 is the promo code for 50% off tickets. And we're kind of switching gears now. Joining us in studio, State Representative Monty Fritz. To give us kind of a breakdown on what happened in the legislative session. It does seem like there were some disappointments, and I kind of want to get your take on it. The budget, the guns, and the illegal alien students. Where do you want to begin, Mr. Fritz?
Let's start with maybe the positive. Lots of the good conservative people that come into Nashville and try to uphold your liberty and your rights, and I think there's a good number of those folks that try to. The embedded political establishment in Nashville's tough.
Yeah.
And they don't miss any opportunity to testify against the Liberty Bill. They have people that you and I are paying for that will come into my office or into a committee meeting that will say that they have a philosophical difference with something we're trying to do. And I've explained this to one of the young people that says they speak for the governor.
Now, so explain the Liberty Bill to me and what happened to it.
A Liberty Bill. I use that as a generic term. Anything that moves us closer to your creator-endowed rights and what our Constitution espouses is what those rights are and keeps those boundaries in place on government so government does not have an overreach into your life. And we have so many places that we've allowed that to happen. Certainly, again, on the positive, good people come out. You and I live in the best state, in the best land.
Yep.
I'm convinced that God has blessed the soil in Tennessee like no other. I'm not suggesting we're going to replace Israel, but I think we're more popular because I think we have more people moving here.
I think you can make the argument Tennessee is more popular than Israel.
Yeah. And I'm part of the Tennessee-Israel caucus. I love the folks there, but I just mean, our quality of life is good, but we can do so much better.
Yes, sir.
We've gotten rankings of, we're a good place to bank and save money. I think we've reached number 2 on the rich states, poor states. Representative Todd, is the state coordinator for ALEC. Great work that we do there, but there's liberty matters that, to be honest with you, some of the people I think in the governor's office and some of the people in the General Assembly, they don't trust you with your rights. And I often go to guns and 2A rights quickly because I think it's a great litmus test. If you ask a politician or a bureaucrat if Chris Hand should be able to carry his 30-30 to work, and they give you some kind of squishy little answer about that. First, I think if you can carry a Glock and you're carrying a 30-30, it might be foolish, right?
Yeah.
Just day-to-day kind of thing. But you have the right. We have that first law of nature of self-defense.
Yep.
Our founders believed in that. They were creationists in their worldview. And so these secular humanists that we have in many political offices and staff, they think that if they mitigate and control and restrict those rights that God has given you, that they can create some kind of social utopia. And so we had a couple things that I was so disappointed in what we did this year. 2 years in a row, or 2 sessions in a row, Representative Reedy has introduced a constitutional amendment, a resolution to have a constitutional amendment to change Article 1, Section 26 of the Tennessee Constitution. It's 2 sentences long. The first sentence talks about your right to keep and bear arms, very similar to our Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. The second sentence then says, but the General Assembly shall have the right to control the wearing of arms for reduction of crime, kind of thing. The history of that sentence, as I have found and others have taught me, comes from 1870, 1871. It's Jim Crow law. And so 2 times now we've got that resolution into committees, and we've had testimony from bureaucrats in Nashville that have successfully got it pulled off. And so you would think, you look back at those racist people that put those words into the Constitution then to keep black folk from being able to own a firearm. And we're arguing for it today. And I'm like, what's wrong with you people? Why would you do that? It's a liberty thing. We had several good pieces of gun legislation. I think most were sent to a gen sub by the Senate or somehow delayed, or some backroom deal was cut to pull them off, just to be honest here in Tennessee.
So by design, they failed almost.
Absolutely, I think so. And because you have these lobbyists Again, state employee lobbyists in some case, they're making a living, $150,000, $200,000 a year by a salary from us, and they're lobbying against your rights, which is immoral.
Crazy. Yeah.
Crazy, yes. And then the lobbyists that would lobby for anything, I'm convinced they're at least the second or third oldest profession. Lobbying's got to be. And
what's worse?
Yeah,
the first oldest profession? Or
well, we better not go there. But we had things so you could protect your private property that went down. We had a bill that would have enabled you to enjoy the rights of your long gun, right? To be able to carry. Went down. Bills that would do something with gun-free zones. In this silly place that we found ourselves in regarding gun laws, the intent to go armed. And so many Tennesseans don't realize this, but code on the books put most people, if you carry a firearm, you do intend to go armed. You don't necessarily intend to do anything bad, right? Lots of millions, I would argue, of good Tennesseans do that. But we've got the law written such that intent to go armed is criminal in and of itself. That should always be a secondary or tertiary consideration if a crime was committed, right? And the firearm was used. And then you'll have some of these weak people that will contribute legislation that focuses on firearms. Well, knives are bad. Ball pads are bad. I mean, a deadly weapon doesn't have to come in the form of a black piece of metal.
Right.
And so,
do you want to be England where we're banning ninja swords next?
No, but I'm sure I have colleagues that would do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and to be honest with you, the establishment here, the governor's office, they don't stand up for the rights of the Tennessean.
No,
not for many things.
And so often it's like the meme that we're this hardcore conservative state, and then you get a little bit closer and you kind of peer through the blinds, and you're like, no, it doesn't exactly flow that way, does it?
Well, as soon as you meet the Wizard of Oz, you realize that some of the things that are up on the screen may not be what you're seeing once you look behind the curtain.
Yep.
And so we've got to do better with that. We've got to be, be statesmanlike. I try to do that. Statesman as a country boy from Kingston can be, but persistent. And I think we've failed on that some in their persistence that we wouldn't trust the citizens with their rights. I mean, you go back to the whole thing during COVID. Folks get on me for saying this, but the truth is we haven't heard an apology.
No.
And I was wrong, and I'll never do this again. And when you offer legislation that would prevent someone from declaring you as non-essential based on your occupation, they need to do that to control looting or rioting and all that kind of crazy stuff. Unfortunately, we've allowed many bureaucrats and many of these elected people to reach the conclusion in their own mind that God has placed them there to determine what your rights are, and that's not what the Constitution says. And we've got to continue to push back toward that. So some of us are trying to do that.
Yeah, and you're one of those guys that's back there pushing back. Now, one of the bills that failed was about the illegal alien kids in our schools. Tell me a little bit about that and why it's so disappointing.
It's disappointing, unfortunately, because it's necessary. What we allowed to happen at that southern border, we brought in a market of human trafficking, I'm convinced.
Yeah.
The summer of 23, I think, I went to McAllen, Texas, me and another group of legislators. I wanted to see with my eyes. I didn't want Fox News or CNN to tell me what was happening at the border.
Was this right around the time that we were deploying Tennessee National Guard to the border?
It was, and there's a whole long story behind that, Chris. I'll talk about that a little bit, maybe. But, we had folks there, citizens in McAllen, Texas, a city of 140,000 people right on the Rio Grande River, that talked to us about lawless conditions. And they each told me, said, you need to take these two things back to Tennessee. It is lawless on the border, and it's coming your way. And so we tried to do some things with that. We had legislation last year that authorized the governor, Article 3, Section 5 of the Tennessee Constitution, in cases of rebellion and invasion, that, he can authorize
the guard.
The guard, yeah. And so we put money behind it, and we authorized up to a brigade-size force. And that was with our dollars. So these weren't Title 10. So the difference being, did they go on federal orders or did they go on state orders? And if you went on federal orders under Joe Biden, you may have been the ones that were cutting the barbed wire that Texas was stringing, right? And I don't know that our guys cut any barbed wire. Let me be clear about that. But
yeah, that's what happened.
Biden had the federal people cutting the barbed wire when the Texas folks would put it out.
They had the forklift. They were raising the razor wire. Yep.
That's right. And so we sent, or our intent was that we could send Tennesseans down to help secure the border and help the Texans. Maybe the Texans didn't ask for it. I don't know. I don't know what the story is. I asked 6 months into that legislation. We hadn't sent anybody, according to the military department. And so I sent the governor a letter and asked him. I've yet to get a reply. So
interesting.
It's easy to talk about those things. And I can promise you that you get lots of flack. If you file a bill that says bring your documentation to every Tennessean, not just those with brown eyes, not just those with a certain skin tone or texture of hair, but bring your documentation this year, because we're not going to educate illegal children created in God's image unless you can prove they have a right to be, or you want to pay for it. So you get lots of hate mail and lots of mean calls and stuff about that, but usually just from ignorant people. And sometimes from people who don't realize that those borders that are on this country, they're there for a reason. And, maybe they're a little globalist in their thinking or whatever, and they push back on it. But we've been reluctant. You mentioned last time I was here, folks crying about it.
Yeah, conservatives crying in the Capitol about the bill that would remove, you'd have to pay for your schooling if you're an illegal alien kid.
Yeah.
Crying.
I certainly.
Grown men.
Yeah, well, maybe not so conservative grown men. But we tend to want to pander to everybody, and we need to be pandering to the Tennessee citizen.
Thank you. They made the conversation about the illegal alien child and not about the Tennessean child. And that's the issue. The issue is when a school teacher has 5 foreign kids in their class that speak 5 different languages, and we're holding down the rest of the class who we already are having a difficult time teaching how to read.
Yeah. And so that teacher has great. We have lots of great teachers. I say this everywhere I go. I think we're probably the envy of the nation, K through college, because of all the factors. I think there's certainly some ways we can improve. I think our Department of Education needs to be a little bit smaller and less overbearing in Tennessee, not just the U.S. And stop, I think we should set high standards, but then stop trying to micromanage the local school systems. I think that just as I as a parent or you as a parent, God gave the child to you or to me, and it's our right and responsibility to raise that child up, not the school boards, not the state of Tennessee. And sometimes we have that perspective here in Nashville that we're all-knowing. It's kind of like that whole Oz syndrome that you mentioned, or I mentioned a moment ago, and we want to dictate everything. I think sometimes the best way to drive success is to experience failure. And I think we should be pulling money back from some of these school systems because they're doing so poorly. And I think that if we are teaching things in school, teaching little boys that they can be little girls, I think we ought to pull the money away from them.
I'm with you.
I think that if we're teaching them to hate America and that the flag's bad and standing at attention with your hand over your heart's a bad thing to do and pledging allegiance, one nation under God, I think they ought not get a dime of Tennessee dollars or federal dollars. But, set those base requirements and then let the communities excel at what they do. And, competition's good.
We're speaking with State Representative Monty Fritz, breaking down what happened in the most recent legislative session that has now come to a close. We'll be back with Monty in a moment right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
If you see me squirming,
Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand for my friend Shane Ring over at Cover Nash. If you're paying too much for health insurance, listen up. You got to talk to Shane. He has a brand new option for you that could honestly change the game. There's a new plan on the market that is actually going to bring your deductible down to just $250. That's right. Not $5,000, not $8,000. $250. And the best part is you don't have to wait for open enrollment. Shane can help you switch and save money right now. See, he's been doing this for over 20 years. He's shopping the entire market. He has over 75 different companies to shop from, and he's going to find the best fit for your budget and your health needs. Now, whether you're self-employed, between jobs, or just plain old overpaying for coverage, Shane can save you 30 to 60% on your premiums. 30 to 60%. Stop overpaying. Call Shane Ring today, 615-465-0023, or you can hit his website, covernash.com. I'm more of a phone call guy, 615-465-0023. Affordable, quality coverage managed by you, not the government, covernash.com.
Weather can change in an instant, and you need to be prepared for any outcome. That's why Generator Supercenter of Nashville will help keep your family safe and connected. We make buying a backup generator simple and easy, with financing options available, free in-home estimate, turnkey installations, no worry warranty, and most importantly, the monitoring and service of your fully installed generator. Come see us at our location in Nashville or visit us online. Generator Supercenter of Nashville. We serve all Middle Tennessee.
President Trump announces his own lawfare aimed at a notorious D.C. law firm. And the stock rebound continues today. We'll take a look at Wall Street now. That and more coming up here at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 10:24 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. That's Joan Jones in the newsroom. My name is Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC. We got about 5 minutes here. State Representative Monty Fritz is in the building. Hey, Monty, how are you?
Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So there was a bill that is going to the governor's desk, and you have asked the governor to veto the bill. Mm-hmm. You wrote a letter along with Jody Barrett, I believe, and you and Jody wrote a letter saying, please veto this bill. What's the bill, and why should it be vetoed?
Well, and so Representative Chris Todd actually put on his letterhead. So he's a courageous, standing up for life person. Representative Todd is, and so I think we ended conversation on the floor on that House Bill 533 prematurely. I had concerns. I think others had concerns about the possibility of the morning after pill, or the ECP, emergency contraceptive pill.
Well, what was House Bill 533?
It was on the rights of IVF, in vitro fertilization, and access to contraception.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to access to the contraception. I'll be honest with you. I'm not crazy about my tax dollars paying for anybody's contraception.
Yep, I'm with you.
And we're doing that.
Yeah.
The Department of Health's doing that. I think we talked about that the last time I was here. I did a budget amendment to try to take that out. And so I was already tuned in on this. When it come to the floor, we had lots of good questions. Representative Barrett had asked some good questions. Representative Todd asked some really good questions. Representative Hill up in Upper East Tennessee asked some really good questions and talked about this was something that the ACLU was in favor of. And,
That's
Planned Parenthood.
That's a red flag.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, a bloody red, bloodthirsty red flag, in my opinion. And so we wanted to just ask if it was an abortifacient. One of the good doctors on the floor talked about he didn't think so, but there's lots of reference material from the FDA, from other healthcare providers in the nation, not just in the state, that levonorgestrel, if I'm pronouncing that correctly,
morning after
in the
pill.
ECP, the morning after pill, can become an abortifacient because it prevents an implantation of that fertilized egg. And I think life begins at conception, fertilized egg.
Yep.
And if it does that, I think that's abortion, and that's illegal in Tennessee. And so I talked to some leadership about it. I said, I think we need to recall that vote because I don't think everybody got their questions answered. I think that there would be people who would vote differently if they knew these things. And so that didn't happen. So we started putting some words together and put the letter. And again, Rep. Todd, great guy, friend of mine from Jackson, sent that letter to the governor's desk, and there was about a dozen of us had signed it. Probably could have got many more to sign the letter, but we sent it over asking him, and the letter's really clear, and I believe this, Chris. I think that one of the things that God hates the most is the shedding of innocent blood, and I think God has blessed Tennessee. I think we're the ones that are trying to make July a month of prayer and fasting in Tennessee from here on out to ask God to forgive sinners like me, folks that are broken and wretched like me. And I repent. And because certainly my sin in and of itself, I think, is enough to bring judgment on the state of Tennessee. And I don't want that for my children, my grandchildren, for your children, your grandchildren someday. We need God's blessing. And so I think there's enough caution there not to get in the pathway of the judgment of a righteous God. And I know that sounds way crazy for a politician to say that. I think our founder spoke that way.
Yeah.
I think they believe that way.
I agree with that.
And I think if we don't get back to the way the Adams and the Washingtons and the Jeffersons thought, flawed men, as flawed as me, maybe, much smarter than me, but as flawed as me, maybe. But they understood those concepts, that creationist worldview. They understood that God had assembled these people together to have this experiment in liberty on this continent, and that we must have God's blessing for it to succeed. And so when we do things like that, maybe with all kinds of good intentions, lots of people benefit from IVF, right?
Yeah.
Those children, to the parents who couldn't have children, it's a tremendous blessing.
Huge blessing. And my daughter has friends who they were conceived via IVF. But if you don't look at IVF too closely, it does. It just sounds like a modern miracle, a scientific blessing. But then when you dig in a little bit, you realize that there's actually a lot of loss in the IVF process.
There can be, and there was a pastor in Alabama, a doctor rather, in Alabama, who's part of the Christian Coalition there, that had called me and provided some additional information on what IVF guidelines were in Germany, and they have strict set of guidelines to try to protect the sanctity of life.
That's interesting. Let's pick this up on the other side. I want to learn more about the German restrictions on IVF. And then we can kind of dig into IVF a little bit more broadly as well. We're with State Representative Monty Fritz discussing what happened in the most recent legislative session here in Tennessee. It is 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Let me see if I...
Good morning, 10:30. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Got to watch yourself in Spring Hill this morning. Got a crash involving injuries. 65 in the northbound lanes at I-40. That's exit 59, and it is stop and go up to that point of the traffic accident this morning. In an early morning social media post, President Trump announced that he is suing Perkins Coie. That's the law firm that hired Fusion GPS at the behest of Hillary Clinton during the 2016 presidential campaign. Fusion GPS manufactured the fake dossier that was the basis of the Russian hoax. In March, Trump revoked security clearances and canceled government contracts for Perkins Coie An Obama-appointed judge temporarily blocked parts of the president's order. New this morning, ABC News is reporting that the U.S. has presented a new proposal to Ukraine for ending the war with Russia.
Russia said very little about a concrete proposal for a ceasefire in Ukraine. But we know that in private, the Russians have been speaking to Steve Whitlock, Trump's envoy. And after those conversations, we now understand from a senior Ukrainian official that the U.S. has presented a proposed plan for a ceasefire to the Ukrainians.
ABC's Tom Sufi Burridge there. Representatives from the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine are in London today. They're discussing that proposal. And the Tennessee Parole Board recommending a full pardon for country music star Jelly Roll on the recommendation of Davidson County Sheriff Darren Hall. Here's Channel 4's Alexandria Adams.
He was first arrested at the age of 16 years old for aggravated robbery. He was then in and out of jail and prison for years on different charges. Jelly Roll has been open and honest about his criminal history. He's also used his platform to advocate for and educate others in similar situations.
The pardon will be up to Governor Bill Lee to approve. That's the latest news. We've got weather up next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
1036 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio, tune in the 99.7 WTN app. You can watch us too. Super Talk TV is live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. I think that's all the things. Hit like and subscribe. Share the show with your friends. We're in studio with Rep. Monty Fritz, State Representative Monty Fritz, having good conversation. I'm a big fan of Monty Fritz. Monty, thank you for being here. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
We were talking about IVF before we hit the break. It was House Bill 533, if I recall correctly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so run down what House Bill 533 is doing and why you want the governor to veto it, and then we'll kind of go back into the IVF discussion.
It basically, just on a very high level, it codified a right to contraception. Okay, fine. And then we included emergency contraceptive pill in that. That was my initial big hit on this, is that I had concerns about that.
The morning after pill.
The morning after pill, emergency contraception pill or a morning after pill, that they could become an abortifacient or be used as that. And I've been able to confirm that through several different sources. So that was my big concern. And you start to look at the IVF, and as you and I were speaking before the break, my goodness, we know folks that have benefited from that. And children are the greatest gift from God next to salvation.
Yep.
Children are the greatest of things. And so I think that's been an answered prayer to lots of folks, but we kind of did something broad and unregulated, and it was already happening in Tennessee. You had folks on the floor standing up and saying, this is unnecessary. Why are we codifying this? And if it becomes a right, if we say it's a right, at some point in time, that right means someone's going to ask you, the taxpayer, to pay for that for other people.
Yeah.
Right? And so I don't think we navigated those waters carefully. And the good people that brought the legislation, and even the good people that voted for it, there were 37 of us Republicans that voted no, and 8 Republicans who were present not voting, which is often a way of saying, at least the way I look at it.
Fence riding?
Well, not always. Sometimes there's that. But sometimes you can look at a complex piece of legislation and say, I agree with these 4 bullets, but I don't agree with that 5th. I can't really vote for it.
Got you.
Right? And so I think that makes sense in my mind. Or I still have a question about this that's not resolved. And it could be some fence riding, that don't want to stand. A vote is a vote. You've taken a stand one way or the other.
Yeah.
Some of the folks on the floor refer to the president not voting as a no with a hug.
Yeah.
So that's probably the fence riding part of it. I'm not really into that part. I've hit the blue light on a few things this year because, again, I might agree with 4 of the 5 elements, but opposed to the 5th, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, 45 Republicans did not vote for this. When you do the math, that means 30 Republicans did, and the remainder were Democrats. Lots of good people, friends I have that are Democrats.
Yep.
But I think those numbers change if you have one more conversation on the floor. And that's kind of we'd asked for possibility of reconsideration and didn't get that. So that's why we did the letter. And, I hope Governor Lee's gotten a chance to look at it. I know lots of people are praying about this across the state because lots of people feel like I do, that we're about to step into a freight train of judgment.
So on the IVF front, what did it do for IVF? It codified your access to it?
It basically, and what it didn't do are some things. I mentioned the doctor from Alabama that had called me and pushed me toward this site because I hadn't researched the IVF a whole lot, right?
Well, and IVF is one of those things that if you're not researching it, it sounds great. Yeah. And I remember it was a couple weeks back, Seth Gruber had said something about, very anti-IVF, and I thought to myself, well, that's weird. Why? And I was kind of embarrassed. I hadn't even heard the anti-IVF argument. But there is an anti-IVF argument. There's a very pro-life argument to go along with it, and it's that countless eggs are being fertilized.
Yes.
In order
sometimes
to
destroyed.
Yes.
Or tested.
Yep.
So this is just an overview of what this doctor sent me. He said in Germany, the legal framework for in vitro fertilization is governed by the Embryo Protection Act. And I can't pronounce that in German. It's got something like schnitzel in it. And it says the law restricts IVF procedures, including the number of embryos that can be created and transferred, and prohibits certain practices like egg donation and surrogacy. What we didn't protect any of that.
Interesting.
Key aspects of the German law, it says limited embryo creation transfer of all created embryos rather than freezing some. And if you read this, it says there's a limit of 3, and all 3 have to be implanted, and then let nature take its course. Surrogacy is illegal. The transfer of a human embryo to a woman who intends to give birth for someone else. Because you have to think about that and think about the deviant minds of people that would use something intended for good, and I have no question that the good lady that carried this intended it for good, right? She was probably brought this legislation by somebody. But you develop a market for selling children.
100%. And there's actually criminal cases that you've had guys who are in a gay marriage relationship who are doing the IVF, going the surrogacy route, and then perpetrating the most horrendous, vile crimes against those children as they become older. And it almost seems too easy for that kind of abuse to occur.
It does. And I got to say this, since you opened that door, marriage is institution of God.
Yes.
I don't care if you have a black robe and there's 9 of you sitting together in D.C., you don't get the right to change that.
I'm with you.
And that's another way that we've brought the wrath and judgment of God Almighty on us. The Bible is clear. We tend to think, we've bought into this whole lie that there's a separation of church and state, meaning me and you as Christians, as believers, as followers of Jesus Christ, can't influence the government.
Yeah.
Well, the only one that benefits from that, the only created individual, is Satan.
Yeah.
Because mankind's not going to. And so we've brought much judgment upon us with that.
But that was the original slippery slope. They said gay marriage is not going to be a slippery slope. It's not like we're going into your kid's classroom and now it's shut up and let the drag queen read the book, bigot. It's like, what has happened?
Yeah. I mentioned, again, another shout out to my good friend, Chris Todd in Jackson. You know, he took on the whole drag queen thing in Tennessee. And I'm sure he was brutally talked to by people and he's got the courage, you know, and you got to appreciate the guts today. We see so many politicians that are so gelatinous in their spine that they won't stand for anything. And so I'm a big fan of those men and women, and we have men and women that will stand up and do the right thing. And it's a refreshing thing. It brings a smile to my face when they do that. A couple other things I'll read on the German law that we didn't discuss. Egg donation's illegal. Research on embryos is restricted. So some of the research and what I've read after this has been that, you know, we might determine if this is a child we want to live. And my goodness, I just think we can do better than that in Tennessee. God's so blessed us. Let's honor him. If there is some legislation that needs to be done, let's not rush something through to do it. And that feels like what we did.
So you've written a letter along with a few other conservatives to ask Governor Lee to veto the bill.
Yes, sir.
What do you think the odds are that he does that? Or do you think there's better odds that he vetoes the bill, or is there better odds that he just doesn't sign it at all and lets it go into law that way?
Don't know. I don't want to predict that. I think lots of people are praying that God will whisper in Governor Lee's ear. I think he is a Christ follower. I do believe that. And, you know, sometimes in my life, the noise of life sometimes pollutes the whisper of God. And so I think one of the things your listeners, your Christian believer listeners can do is pray that God would clear out the noise in Governor Lee's ears and let him hear his whisper, because I cannot believe, based on the authority of God's word, that what we did was okay.
Well, I hope that he changes his mind on that. I do. I got a text here that I want to read to you. 2260. My fiance is 35, has endometriosis, low egg count, and we have to go through IVF to even fathom having a child with both of our genes. Unfortunate, but IVF is good for people despite the egg retrieval, etc. If you're diagnosed not being able to conceive naturally. Not religious here, so that changes our perspective on this. Interested to hear more. What would you say to somebody in that situation when it comes to IVF?
I'd say my heart hurts that, you know, not being able to have a child for our friends that are listening here, and certainly no judgment in what I'm offering toward those people seeking out because they want, you know, to have children.
Yeah.
That greatest of gift. I think that the price that we've brought on the state is those of us that allowed this to get into the law without fully protecting the life that's been created in this process, right? And so I'm sorry to our friends that are listening.
Yeah.
I hope nothing I'm saying is hurtful. I'm hoping that you've got a good Christian, moral Christian doctor that's conducting the process, and they're abiding by things guided by God's hand rather than what maybe some have. I think just the fact that we have laws that are specific about this indicate that there are those that have taken advantage of it. Tennessee Right to Life, I think it was, sent me an article, and there was a here in Nashville, that the refrigeration units, because it's all about freezing them.
Yeah.
Make lots of eggs and freeze the eggs, and it's a refrigeration had gone down in the. It's just a crazy thing. I think sometimes, and as respectfully as I can to your listener, first let me say I love you, and I'm sorry you're having a hard time having children. I hope God opens your womb, friend. I pray that God Almighty would touch you and bless you with children and make you abundant. I do. I think that we sometimes get into this great battle between secular humanism and a creationist worldview that our founders had, and I talk about a lot. And the secular humanists are those Tower of Babel builders that perhaps want to have a secular answer for everything, and I think some things are God's.
Yeah. Amen. I hear you. Is there a time limit in order for Governor Lee to veto the bill? And what does that time limit look like before, no signature, it just becomes law on its own?
It hit his desk earlier this week, so he could sign it into law or veto it any day. If it lays there 10 days, not counting Sundays, without a signature, it'll go into law.
Okay. Does that seem like that's probably the most realistic option currently?
No, I'm pretty faithful about it. I think God's going to intervene here. I really do. I think we had I might have mentioned this one of my last times here. I'm the one that did the whole prayer resolution for the Tennessee. That I got to write the first few words of it. I don't want to take too much credit. Me and Senator Pody carried that. We had the privilege to. And so this year we come back because it's a good thing to ask for God's blessing on Tennessee, I think. And for civil government to do that, not forcing. Government should never force the church to do anything.
Yep.
And but just to honor him, I think civil government honoring God and asking for his blessing and healing on our state is a tremendously important thing. That resolution passed through the House really quickly. It got held up in the Senate, I think for political reasons, what I was told. Somebody got their feelings hurt, and they were using it as some kind of pawn or something. I was told it was held hostage, whatever that means. And I'm telling you, we had people from Memphis to Mountain City praying, I know, because I got text from them. And we had people from Chattanooga to Lake County praying about this, and from Clarksville to McNairy County, all across the state. And God heard those prayer warriors, because yesterday, one of the last things that happened in the Senate was they voted 27-3 to pass that out. So it's on the governor's desk.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
He's still on his throne. We sometimes, I get caught up in the whole secular humanist view and think, it's not going to work out. But I think that people pleading before God Almighty, I think he's able to bend the stiff neck and to make our spirits move like the river flows.
I love it. We're with State Representative Monty Fritz. Before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? I know that we wanted to talk about the budget. Can you give me your insight into the budget for the state of Tennessee and how happy or disappointed you may be?
So I'm concerned. In 6 years, Governor Haslam's last budget submittal was $37.5 billion. And that would be the first budget that Governor Lee worked under. This year, the governor's request was $59.5 billion.
So almost doubling it.
Well, it's 59%, according to my math, increase. That's not sustainable. And lots of recurring dollars, lots of one-time things that I think that are going to be deleterious to our economy at some point in time, right? We're spending money, your money and my money, our taxpayer money, your listeners' taxpayer money, on competing issues in state government. We're offering $25 million of our dollars to pay for putting state easements on farmland to prevent the loss of farmland. Losing farmland's
it's a big deal.
It's a crisis thing. It is. And so I appreciate the heart behind that, but we're going to incentivize that with $25 million of our tax dollars, and not all that's going to the farmer. In committee, when we talk about it, I ask, and as I said, I think our founders are rolling over in their grave because property rights were important to the founders, and to cede those property rights to the government forever, in perpetuity. I got to believe that Adams, Jefferson, somebody, if that happens, right, it's kind of rolling over in the dirt nap. But then we're going to offer $60 million in incentive for 0% construction loans on new starter homes. And so those new starter homes, in many cases, are building on that farmland. And our ECD folks, it's great to have good industry coming in, but that industry has to have soil. Mm-hmm. We're not making any more. And we're offering your tax dollars and my tax dollars as incentives for Ford to come into West Tennessee. And so when you think about that, you have two sides of the same coin. And on one side, we're incentivizing save the farmland. On the other side, we're incentivizing bring your company in, let's build on that farmland.
Yeah, buy the farmland.
And you know who really gets hurt in the middle is that private property ownership. Because I use this, and I think I said this on the floor. I said, we're selling our birthright. Esau come home hungry, and he sold his birthright for a bowl of stew, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure we're not doing something like that in this case. But anyways, back to the budget. We're spending lots of those big chunks of dollars, and I'm convinced that the next governor needs to come in and say, we're going to have a minimum 5% reduction in the state operating budget with a 10% stretch goal. And I'm convinced that next governor needs to come in and say some of these folks that are denying that we talked about in the first part of your show, they're coming in and denying your rights or fighting against your firearms rights or your rights to speak freely or your right to work as a barber and declaring you as non-essential.
Yep.
We need to fire them. We need to send them home.
Amen.
And if they have a history of doing that, we give them an option. You can put on a jumpsuit and pick up garbage on 24 or go find another job. Because the taxpayers of Tennessee are not benefiting from you people who are usurping your power over them and stripping them of their rights. And so when we send money, again, this is all budget related. The more money that we send in to Nashville and we centralize that control, it's the first form of bondage. Taxation is the first form of bondage. And so we continue to send the money. I've tried, I don't know if I'm a good representative, but we've had good representatives try to take the 4% state sales tax off.
Yeah.
We have grandmothers and moms, young moms and dads like the folks that just called in or texted in a moment ago, that's meaningful to them.
Yeah, 100%.
But we keep taking that money so that we can keep having these special programs for things. We sent $13 million to the arts, the Commission of the Arts. Just under $3 million of those dollars are to fund the staff. And we're in an arts place, right? This is Music City. I love it. Same thing in Bristol, same thing on Beale Street.
Yeah.
Right? Arts. And not just music, but, dance and all. And it's important for but then there's another $10 million that becomes the money that you and I, the taxpayer, are picking the winners and losers in that. That's not okay. We really need to get a hold of this budget thing. As this DOGE thing takes place in D.C., and we pull back on dollars and we see all the corruption that's been in monies that we've sent overseas or apparent corruption, there's going to be a tendency for us to want to fill all those holes with your Tennessee tax dollars.
Yeah, we got to avoid that.
We're on a bad trend right now. We're on a 6-year trend of the budget's going up. We need to, that should be priority number one. Whoever these folks are say they're going to run for governor, that should be their first priority is cut the budget.
And this is why we need more Monty Fritz in the state legislature. Monty Fritz, I appreciate the time today on the show. Where can we find you and keep up with you on social media?
Facebook, at just Monty Fritz. You'll find me, Monty Fritts. And Fritz for TN32 on Twitter.
Fritz for TN32. Monty Fritz, I appreciate the time. As always, it is 10:55 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, brother.
11 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Getting a little hotter, a little more humid out there. We'll tell you about the chances for some rain coming up in about 5 minutes. Full forecast then. Longtime Democratic U.S. Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois says he will not seek re-election. Durbin is the second highest ranking Democrat in the U.S. Senate. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent with a suggestion for China to ease the pain of the trade war. He says China's model of exporting goods has deprived other nations of building manufacturing bases on their own.
China can start by moving its economy away from export overcapacity and towards supporting its own consumers and domestic demand. Such a shift would help with global rebalancing that the world desperately needs.
As stocks are higher for a second straight day on Wall Street, but April still on track to be the worst for stocks since the Great Depression. Jim Ryan has some money news.
Federal officials say 724,000 new homes were sold in March, up from 676,000 in February and well above the figure from March of last year. And while mortgage rates remain stubbornly high, home prices fell by about $11,000 last month. The median sales price is around $403,000.
Here in Nashville, the housing market saw a slight decrease in new home sales while there was a rise in home prices and inventory last month. The median home sold price in Nashville was $533,486, up 2.4% from the previous year. And while home sales dipped slightly in Nashville, the number of listings on the market increased by more than 6.5%, according to Realtor.com. Got a warning about an invasive destroyer that's showing up more and more in Tennessee. The spotted lanternfly has been spotted once again.
The Tennessee Department of Agriculture recently found the spotted lanternfly on a resident's private property in Hermitage. Entomologists say the insect can eat off many trees and crops in our state, making wood product businesses and fruit growers especially vulnerable. Infested trees may exhibit wilting, defoliation, dieback, yield loss, and in severe cases, death.
That is News Channel 5's Kelsey Gibbs. If you see one of these spotted lanternflies, you're asked to take a photo and then kill it. Upload the photo to the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. Well, this Saturday's National Prescription Drug Take-Back Day, and Kroger says once again it'll host drug take-back events across the state. Anyone can drop off unwanted bottles from the medicine cabinet at designated Kroger locations in Franklin, Gallatin, Germantown, and Hendersonville, among others. Check with your local store before heading out this weekend. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
It's 11:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. Hey, how are you? Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC. Water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. Shout out to State Representative Monty Fritz for coming in, spending an hour with us. I like Monty a lot. Shout out to Jason Whitlock coming in, spending an hour with us. We don't often do like bigger, longer guest formats. So if that's something you guys like and you want more of, let me know. We're happy to do whatever you guys want. You're the most important part of the show. Whether you're weighing in on the phone lines, the super text line, or over on the YouTube chat, we appreciate you interacting with the show however you may do so. We're live on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, the FM dial, and on Super Talk TV, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Hit like, hit subscribe, share the show with your friends, repost it, do all the things. We appreciate it. Spotted lanternflies. I heard this in the Ken Weaver newscast, which is the number one place for news. And
especially about critters.
So what's up with the spotted lanternfly?
Got to look out for these things, Brother Chris. Apparently, they will eat up vegetation.
I'm looking at them, and I don't know. All right, can you put the picture up on Super Talk TV? This is a picture of a spotted lanternfly. Ken, they look majestic.
Oh, they're beautiful. Beautiful little, they look like moths.
They look like delicate, fancy moths.
Yes. But they apparently will do a number on your vegetation, especially trees.
So the government is advocating genocide against the spotted lanternfly.
Take a picture of them and then kill them.
Okay.
And then download the photo to the Tennessee Department of Agriculture.
Do you get anything when you upload the photo?
I think you get, you might get a ball cap and a whistle.
That's going to be enough for my 7-year-old.
Because that'll scare away the other lanternflies.
My 7-year-old, he got into beekeeping last summer.
I know, man. Is he still doing that?
He is.
All right.
He catches bees with his bare hands, and he puts them in jars.
Cool.
Just an absolute madman. I'm going to show him a picture of this spotted lanternfly when we get home.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have something fun to hunt.
That's right. Yeah.
I may let him take out the Red Ryder.
Gonna shoot him with BBs.
we might. Listen, we got to defend our home. It's a double. We can learn a cool lesson here about protecting the homestead.
That's right. Are you gonna get him a beehive?
I don't know. If we had more land, we didn't have to worry about the pesky HOA not wanting me to raise bees on my property.
That's true.
I'm sorry. I thought this was America. I can't have bees and chickens. They said, no, sir. No, sir, you can't. So,
and by the way, you can't have lanternflies either.
We're trying to get rid of them. We're going to do our part one fly at a time. Thank you for the news, Ken.
You betcha, brother.
We're going to kill me some flies. I'll tell you what. Sorry, son. We didn't have enough likes and subscribes to send you to summer camp, but here's a BB gun. Go kill you some flies. It actually sounds more fun. I'm not going to lie to you.
It does, with a little BB gun.
It does.
Very challenging.
We're gonna make that happen for young Brooks.
Just see him in the yard covered in mud like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah, we're going full war paint. We'll break out the baseball eye black.
What if Brooks teaches bees to attack the lanternflies?
Oh, that would be cool.
Now we're talking. We were a little bit disappointed in cicada season because it didn't last that long.
Wait a minute, has it already come and gone?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks of heavy cicadas and then just nothing.
It was a very small window.
Oh, that's a bummer, man. I wanted to see them.
We didn't even have a chance to tie a string around them like we like to.
Yeah.
We usually tie strings around our cicadas and we fly them around like kites.
That's actually a fun idea.
What's that?
That's better than what I did to them when I was a kid.
Shoot them with a BB gun?
No, I was worse. I put them in fire ant beds.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Did you really?
I put a lot of things in fire ant beds. Growing up in East Texas, we had fire ants everywhere.
When kids do that, they usually say it's a red flag.
I know. I know.
You had fire ant beds everywhere?
Oh, yeah, in East Texas back in late 70s, early 80s, man.
You just were putting things in the fire
Yeah,
ant
man,
bed.
I was just catching grasshoppers and throwing them in there. We'd sit around and watch the ants.
It's in God's hands now.
Yeah.
Also, gentlemen, I was wrong. And I'm happily wrong. Because in this late April, early May is cicada season.
Cicada season 2.
Yeah, what are these going to... Remember last year's brood had the red eyes.
Yeah, the big red eyes. Let me check.
What are these going to look like, Brother Mason?
Are these fun? Do they have spots?
Yeah. Do they have spots? And are they Are they cousin to the lanternfly?
Ooh, that one. I sure hope not, because those sound a little dangerous for our plant life, for sure. And if they're that big, make me a little worried.
Hey, do you guys know where the lanternflies come from?
Where do they
China.
come from?
China.
From
Yeah.
where?
From China.
China. Didn't the murder hornets come from China too?
They did.
Yeah.
Doesn't it all like?
It seems like everything bad comes from China.
But the thing is the most deadliest insects and animals are in Australia. We
Yes.
never seem to have the issue with the Australian animals coming over here.
Well, Australia was a
only-
prison island, so they're pretty good about keeping captives in.
But you know what I mean? Isn't that weird though? Like we never have to worry about a flying Australian spider.
Right.
We have to worry about spotted lanternflies from China.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Almost
you don't.
got
Yeah, you don't have to worry. Of all the things that can kill you in this world, it seems like the highest concentration is in Australia.
Oh, for sure.
But you're right. We never hear about an invasive species from Australia.
No, only from China.
China.
That's it.
I mean, doesn't Australia have like 4-foot spiders or something?
Yes, they have like flying spiders. They have spiders that will like cook you breakfast and call you an Uber.
Yeah.
They have like it's the craziest thing.
Dude, Australia was on my top list of countries to visit in life, and then I found out that
all the things that could kill you.
Yeah, for real. People opening their toilets and a coiled snake is in there.
Yeah, no thank you.
Or I saw a big open field and I was like, oh, is that fog? That's kind of cool for a nice shot. No, it was spiders using their silk to fly through the air and attach themselves to cars
remember
and whatnot. And like the whole field was covered in webs. And I was like,
it's like
like
you ever
no,
see
thank
Spider-Man make a parachute out of his web?
Yeah,
That's what they do.
Same thing,
That's
and they're
what they do.
about as big as my thumb, and that's
that's
terrifying.
That's
no,
not,
thank you.
That's not good.
No, we don't need it.
It's like
burn that down.
Restart.
Yeah,
no more.
How to get the flying spider out of your home? Step 1: burn the home down.
Yeah, move.
Pour gasoline.
All right, so we'll get back to you on what was it? Did you find out what kind of cicadas?
So they look, their eyes look a little more orange than red this year.
Ooh, yeah, some Halloween cicadas.
Yeah,
Jackocada. That's what we got.
Yes,
That's
sir.
what we got.
Jackocadas.
All right. Well, we'll keep you posted on the lanternfly hunting and the cicada farming when we have updates available. We're going to shoot them bugs if we see them. Tell you what.
Do it.
Tell you what. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. I might post a video on the Instagram story similar to the piece of spaghetti going up the nostril.
Learning the proper lessons.
You've got to get some sound effects from like the old Gunsmoke series too,
absolutely.
man, of the bullets ricocheting.
That's what we do. Hip hop DJs do that all the time. They'll be in the middle of their set and then they'll have actual 9mm going off.
Yeah.
We should do it, but we should do it with like BB guns.
The most cartoony, Hanna-Barbera sound effects coming off in the background.
Hey, we got some tariff updates. Are you ready for tariff updates? The White House is saying that 18 countries have made formal trade proposals to the United States. 18 so far, and they have official trade meetings with 34 countries this week. This is according to Carolyn Levitt, who broke this news yesterday at the White House press briefing. Carolyn Levitt's amazing. She breaks it all down right here in this clip.
Entire trade team this morning. There is a lot of progress being made. We now have 18 proposals on paper that have been brought to the trade team. Again, these are proposals on paper that countries have proposed to the Trump administration and to our government. You have Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick, Ambassador Greer, NEC Director Hassett, and Peter Navarro, the entire trade team, meeting with 34 countries this week alone.
It's crazy.
We are moving at Trump speed to ensure these deals are made on behalf of the American worker and the American people. And just yesterday, it seemed to get a little bit lost in the news, and I think it's a disservice to the American public that it did. The Vice President announced terms of reference for a trade deal with India.
Yeah, that did get lost in the news cycle yesterday, did it not? It seemed to be overshadowed very quickly. This announcement coming, obviously, after J.D. Vance killed the Pope. He went to India and he said, what? What?
Sorry. The comment about J.D. just threw me off a little bit there.
What, about how he went to India?
No, about something about the
how the left says he killed the Pope.
Oh yeah, that's right. So after he killed the Pope, he went to India, and he announced this trade deal that they have come to terms on. Well, they've officially finalized the terms of reference for the trade negotiation.
As many of you are aware, both of our governments are hard at work on a trade agreement built on shared priorities, like creating new jobs, building durable supply chains, and achieving prosperity for our workers. In our meeting yesterday, Prime Minister Modi and I made very good progress on all of those points. And we are especially excited to formally announce that America and India have officially finalized the terms of reference for the trade negotiation. I think this is a vital step. Thank you.
Yeah, it's clutch, man. And he got it done by saying, "You saw what I did to the Pope, right?" And that was it. The rest was history. No, so we do have updates. Donald Trump was talking about China yesterday. He had some things to say about the People's Republic of
China.
That's right. And he says, when it comes to trade negotiations with them, we're doing fine. We're doing okay.
Mr. President, on China, your press secretary has suggested that some progress is being made. Are negotiations actively underway? And do you agree with Secretary Bessent, who has suggested that the current standoff with China is not sustainable?
We're doing fine with China. We're doing fine with almost every country. Everybody wants to have involvement with the United States. As you know, we were losing $5 billion a day during the Biden administration, during that last year, was a horror show what they were doing on trade. $5 billion a day.
A day.
And now we have it down to a very low number because we're getting 25% from the automobile industry, from autos. We're getting 25% for steel, 25% for aluminum, and we're getting the baseline of 10%. And think of it, we're losing almost $2 trillion on trade. And those days are gone. We're not going to do that again. We're not going to let that happen. We're being ripped off by almost, I don't say every, but very close to every country, everywhere in the world, just being ripped off left and right. You had no leadership. You had people that didn't know what they were doing. And we're going to turn the country around. We have a very nice phrase, make America great again. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make America great again. On China, we're fine on China.
China?
He actually says those guys, China, they want to make a deal.
China?
They have to make a deal, is what President Trump said yesterday. And he said they have to make a deal because, well, they're going to need access to the American market if they want to sell their goods. And he's absolutely right.
We'll see what happens, but ultimately they have to make a deal because otherwise they're not going to be able to deal in the United States. So we want them involved, but they have to, and other countries have to make a deal. And if they don't make a deal, we'll set the deal because we're the ones that set the deal. Scott and Howard and myself and others, we're going to be setting the deal. And it'll be a fair deal for everybody, and it'll be, I think it's a process that's going to go pretty quickly. We've spoken to many, many countries, and we're getting their views on things. There are a lot of things. They have VAT taxes. They have everything you can have. Don't forget, as an example, the European Union was set up to take advantage of the United States. That's why it was set.
With friends like those, who needs enemies? But when it comes to countries around the world, again, 18 formal proposals on the table. I do think that we're going to start having some very good news very shortly when it comes to these trade deals. And maybe we'll be hearing about India very soon. Maybe we'll hear something about China in the coming days. On China, Trump said, listen, it's the golden age. We're embarking upon the golden age. And if China wants to be a part of it, they got to get with it.
Long time. We've had a very good relationship, and I think we'll make a deal with China.
Mr. President, in your meeting with...
If we don't make a deal, we'll set it. We'll just set the number, and, think they'll want to be a part of the United States. We're doing great. This is the golden age, as Paul said. We're talking about the golden age. There will never be a time like this, in my opinion. And China wants to be a part of that, too.
Yeah, I would think that they would. That's Donald Trump. We'll have some more updates on tariffs. He had some things to say about Jerome Powell as well. Kind of walked back the comments of him being an absolute loser. A little bit. Not too much of a walk back, but he was a bit more polite this go around. I'll bring you that when we return. It's 11:21 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, what's up? It's Chris Hand for my friends at the Glock Store, and one of our favorite events of the year is coming up. Glock Store's 5th annual open house. This is happening Saturday, May 31st. Now, every year at the Glock Store, they open up the doors. They bring in the top vendors from across the nation, across the industry, and they invite all of Nashville out for a day of great deals and even better company. And this year is shaping up to be the best yet. They already got some deals on the books, including unbeatable prices on Burrow bullets. These are local bullets made in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, hence the name Burrow bullets. Now, whether you need 9mm, 223, they'll have 50-round boxes, 250-round bullet bags, and even 1,000-round tac packs at the lowest prices ever. When you're training, if you want to be safe, you want to be responsible, the most important part is the training. You need bullets to train. You can't train without the ammo. Burrow Bullets is going to have some great deals for you. So save the date, May 31st at the Glock Store. Make the trip, stock up, and don't forget to come by and say hi to the entire WTN crew. It's the Glock Store's 5th annual open house, Saturday, May 31st, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
All right, drivers in Brentwood got a rolling roadblock to fix potholes. 65 northbound right before Old Hickory Boulevard. Then crash on the right shoulder, 40 westbound. This is before Hermitage Avenue. Stocks are up for a second straight day. President Trump just said something about the trade war. We're going to play for you. And Friday morning, wake up early to see something really neat in the sky. We'll tell you about that at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
How early are we talking, Ken Weaver?
5:30.
So I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it.
I think I'm going to get up and see if I can see this.
All right. We'll find out what this is.
You're not up at 4:30, so you can listen to all of Dan's show in the morning?
No. I usually go to bed right after red eye.
Understandable.
I catch about an hour, and then I'm up.
I actually go to bed earlier when Dan's on red eye.
I'm just kidding. And just to confirm, it's not a spotted lanternfly?
No, it's not a spotted lanternfly. However, when you do get up to see what's going on in the sky, keep an eye out for those little fellas.
Will you want to kill what you see in the fly and take a picture and send it to Tennessee Wildlife?
Yes, you will.
Okay. All right. Good to know. We'll be looking forward to the newscast with Ken Weaver on the way in about 3 minutes. Real quick, though, on Monday, Donald Trump took sharp aim at Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Now, you know how I feel about the Federal Reserve. It's neither federal nor is it a reserve, and I think it should be abolished. That being said, and the Fed and all the things. In a post on Truth Social, Donald Trump went at Jerome Powell about interest rates. He said preemptive cuts in interest rates are being called for by many, with energy costs way down, food prices, including Biden's egg disaster, substantially lower, and most other things trending down. There's virtually no inflation with these costs trending so nicely downward, just what I predicted they would do. There can almost be no inflation, but there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates now. Europe has already lowered 7 times. Powell has always been too late, except when it comes to the election period when he lowered in order to help Sleepy Joe Biden, later Kamala, get elected. How did that work out? So that was Trump's statement on Monday on Truth Social about Jerome Powell. He was asked about Jerome Powell yesterday inside the Oval Office, and Donald Trump had this to say.
You have no intention of firing Jerome Powell because your economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, a few days ago said that you and people in the White House were studying this idea of possibly before his term ends.
No.
Do you have any plans on doing it?
None whatsoever. Never did. The press runs away with things. No, I have no intention of firing him. I would like to see him be a little more active in terms of his idea to lower interest rates. This is a perfect time to lower interest rates.
I agree with that.
If he doesn't, is it the end? No, it's not. But it would be good timing. It could have taken place earlier. But no, I have no intention to fire him.
No, and I mean, let's be perfectly honest. The president can't directly fire Jerome Powell because the Federal Reserve is an independent entity. It is not part of the federal government. Yeah, that's how it works, where we just pay for these money that they print. Not a huge fan. Interest rates should be lowered, though. Now is the time, and now is as good a time as any, says Donald J. Trump. We'll see what happens with the Federal Reserve and if they react. Although I wouldn't get our hopes up in the short term on this, knowing Jerome Powell and Donald Trump and how they interact with one another. But we'll keep you updated should anything change. Hey, on the way, we got a lot more to cover, including the RFK Jr. food dye presser. We haven't had a chance to talk about that. It's definitely on my list of things I want to get to. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast coming up in 5 minutes. Right now on Wall Street, stocks are up for a second straight day. Investors hoping for progress toward ending the trade war, or at least alleviating some of the pressure. The president telling reporters at the White House this morning other nations are in negotiations, and he's talking to Chinese officials.
Actively. Everything's active. Everybody wants to be a part of what we're doing.
Elsewhere in our nation's capital, Stephen Portnoy says a high-ranking Democratic congressman has come to a major decision.
He's one of the longest-serving members currently in the Senate, 5th out of 100 in seniority. Now, Illinois Democrat Dick Durbin says when his 5th term expires, he'll retire. The move will spark rare opportunities to replace him, not just in Illinois, for a Senate seat that hasn't been open since 1996, but also in the ranks of Democratic leadership here in Washington. Durbin serves just below Chuck Schumer as the Senate's Democratic whip.
Fresh information about the Tennessee traffic stop involving Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Salvadoran, arrested in Maryland, then deported last month for being an illegal immigrant and alleged ties to the MS-13 gang. Just the News reporting that the deported man had been driving an SUV that was owned by a man who was himself deported after pleading guilty to smuggling illegal aliens in 2020. The information, part of a Homeland Security intelligence document. In the Tennessee traffic stop, Abrego Garcia told police the SUV belonged to his boss, and he was driving the people inside to a construction work site. Want to see something really neat in the sky on Friday?
If you wake up around 5:30 on Friday morning, go outside and look up to the east. Assuming it's not cloudy, you just might see Venus bright in the sky behind the crescent moon. Below Venus, on the other side of the moon, you might catch a glimpse of Saturn. And as the sun rises and the sky brightens, it'll become clearer, creating something technically known in the scientific community as the smiley face planet alignment. Might have to turn your head just sideways a bit and squint, but it'll be there for about an hour. The planets make up the eyes and the moon makes up the mouth. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
All right, I got to do a commercial here, but real quick. Hey, Ken.
Yes, sir.
I'm not waking up early to see some emoji in the sky.
You know what I just thought about, too? She's saying 5:30 in the morning. She's probably talking about Eastern time.
Oh, yeah, even
so that's going to
earlier?
be 4:30 for us.
Hard pass. I'm a grown man. I don't need to wake up early to see a smiley face made of stars. Get out of here.
Well,
Stars and planets.
Get real.
Brooks will just shoot it anyway.
Yeah, we're not into Saturn worship at my house. Sorry, pal. Save it for somebody else. Hey, it's Chris Hand here for my friend Jason Whitlock. In Men of Courage, it is time to draw the line. You can join Jason Whitlock and Tucker Carlson in Nashville May 2nd and 3rd for Roll Call 3.0. It's going to be a really cool event, the ultimate gathering for bold, faith-driven men ready to stand firm in today's culture war. Now, it kicks off Friday night. This is May 2nd at 3rd and Lindsley with an exclusive VIP event. Whitlock, Tucker, no-holds-barred conversation, music from Randy Houser, comedy from Steve Byrne. Saturday, they move the party over to Rocketown. You can hear from hard-hitting speakers like my pastor, Alan Jackson, Doug Wilson, Corey Brooks, live music from Damian Horn and the Duggar Band, and you can even meet Tucker Carlson face-to-face. Premium access passes are your shot for that, but those spots are vanishing fast. Now, tickets start at just $99. The event will sell out, and you can get your tickets half price. Yes, you can get your tickets half price. We had Jason Whitlock in here earlier today. Use promo code 997 at fearlessrollcall.com for 50% off your tickets. That's fearlessrollcall.com. 37 minutes past the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. How are you doing? I'm good. Thanks for asking. Show's brought to you by Better Water LLC, water filtration systems, water softeners, betterwater.com. You can listen to us on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn app, the 99.7 WTN app, the FM dial. You can watch the show. Super Talk TV is live and running on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the share button, whether you're on any of those platforms. They all got a share button. Share the show with your friends. We appreciate it when you do so. Now, I got a text here from 4702. You ready for this? You got to make sure your tinfoil is tight. You got your tinfoil on tight?
Hold on. Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
The Chinese lanternfly is actually a Chinese spy drone.
Uh-oh.
That's what I'm saying.
They make cameras that small.
They do.
They do.
This is why we're going to be shooting them.
Oh,
this is why we're taking out the Red Rider. This is why.
You know what? The only reason I'm rising at 5:30 in the morning.
Now I know why Tennessee Wildlife needs the picture. It's a conspiracy. 100%. Nailed it. Appreciate the text, 4702. 615-737-9986. If you want to weigh in on the text line or the phone lines, you are more than welcome to join the conversation. I love it when Matt Murphy says this, and I think it's even more entertaining when I steal it from Murphy. We can turn the monologue into a dialogue anytime you would like. 615-737-9986. So yesterday, we were very excited to hear from RFK Jr., and this press conference that they were going to have about banning food dyes, which is very exciting. This is what the Maha movement has been all about, right? We want to get some of this stuff changed in our food supply. We understand we're being poisoned. The food dyes are a big part of that.
We are spending as much on mitochondrial disorders like diabetes as we spend on our military budget.
That's crazy.
We can't continue to exist like this. And the problem is industry is making money keeping us sick. As Jay pointed out, ADHD is associated with all these behavioral disorders. But those disorders are treated not by changing our diet, but providing medications to treat our kids. And they get medicated, and that is the only solution. And, I would point out that there is part of the etiology of these diseases is a kind of media malpractice, a mass psychosis that has our media not talking about this. And one of the possible reasons for that is the amount of money that's coming from the pharmaceutical companies.
Bingo.
Into our media.
Yep.
And from these food companies, where the advertising...
He's right. He's absolutely right.
The advertising has at least plays a factor. That revenue, that extraordinary revenue stream, in disabling their capacity or their inclination for skepticism and for critical thinking. So Americans don't know what they're eating, and they don't know the implications of those things.
No, we don't. We don't really know what we're eating. We don't know the implications. It doesn't seem like any of these organizations that we have basically surrendered all of our power to their authority when it comes to health-related issues have even had the interest of really doing any research on these topics. And you can ask the question why. You can come up with all sorts of answers. But it does feel like they've been working against the interest of the American people, and that sick people are easier to control, and that they can make a lot more money off a sick person than they can a healthy person. Maybe those are some of the motivations. That's what I tend to believe. I'm not saying that I'm 100% accurate. Enter in the new FDA commissioner, Marty Makary. The Boston in me always wants to come out when I see this guy's name. I want to be like, hey, Marty Makary. Marty gets up there and he says, today is the day, my friends. Today's the day that the FDA is finally going to be taking action on these food dyes and the U.S. food supply and the food dyes that are in our medications, because it's not just the food. It's also the medication. There's a reason why your Tylenol for your kids is red. There's a reason why the grape Tylenol is purple. And It's not because they're using grapes or cherries in the Tylenol. It's because of those synthetic and artificial dyes.
Today, the FDA is taking action to remove petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply and from medications. For the last 50 years, American children have increasingly been living in a toxic soup of synthetic chemicals. The scientific community has conducted a number of studies raising concerns about the correlation between petroleum-based synthetic dyes and several health conditions, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obesity, diabetes, insulin resistance, cancer, genomic disruption, GI issues, as I've seen in the hospital, and allergic reactions. For example, this Lancet study conducted a randomized, double-blinded, placebo-controlled study on food dyes and concluded that artificial colors in the diet, quote, result in increased hyperactivity. So why are we taking a gamble?
Why are we taking a gamble? A lot of other countries don't take that unnecessary gamble. And in fact, you can look at all sorts of different countries. Up in Canada, over in Europe, they don't allow these food dyes in at all. If you're watching on Super Talk TV, you'll notice a picture that I put on the screen. These are on the picture on the left are Fruit Loops in America. The picture on the right are Fruit Loops in Europe and Canada. And you can clearly see, even if the photo is a little bit blurry on Super Talk TV, you can clearly see how bright and full the colors are on the left, the American version, versus on the right, the European version. And that difference is the petroleum-based food dyes. It's crazy. And you'll get people say, well, I ate this stuff when I was a kid. But you really didn't. The food dyes have actually changed tremendously. Our food has changed tremendously. And the food that you ate as a kid, even McDonald's, completely changed to what we're seeing today. You know, they used to fry those fries in beef tallow. Now it's hydrogenated oil. But you can look at a list of ingredients. It's not the same food. It's not. It's nowhere near the same food. And the FDA is finally going to be taking some action. This is fantastic news. And they're going to be looking at it, and they're not interested, Marty McCary says, of going down the same path that so many administrations have gone down before. They're not going to continue to do the same things and hope for different results. What they're going to do is they're going to take a fresh approach, and they're going to try new things, and they're going to see what they can do.
The F in FDA stands for food. Now, there's no one ingredient that accounts for the child chronic disease epidemic. And let's be honest, taking petroleum-based food dyes out of the food supply is not a silver bullet that will instantly make America's children healthy.
True.
But it is one important step. This administration is not interested in continuing down the path of doing the same old things as we watch our nation's children get sicker. We need fresh, new approaches.
Yep.
Cancer and diabetes in young people is going up at an alarming rate, and nobody seems to know why.
Nobody seems to even want to ask the question, except for RFK and his new administration at HHS. They're finally asking the question, but a lot of people ridicule them for asking the question. They don't want the question even brought up.
We have to turn our attention to underlying causes, such as chemicals and toxins that children are exposed to, not just more insulin and chemotherapy.
Thank you.
And let's not forget that the best way to lower drug prices is to stop taking drugs we don't need.
Listen, this was a consistent message throughout this press conference. The cheapest way to fix the American healthcare problem isn't going to be a medication. It's not going to be some miracle cure. The cheapest way is to just be healthy. It's a lot easier to stay healthy than it is to get healthy once you've gotten unhealthy, right? And so this is what they're saying, that what we need to do is figure out what's causing it, not just figure out a cure on the back end. Like the GLP medication's great for people that are chronically obese. Do you know what's better than that? Making sure people don't get chronically obese. right? I think we can all agree on that. Marty McCary says, listen, we can't just keep doing the same old things and hope for different results. That is the definition of insanity. So the Trump administration is moving to ban these food dyes. This is just one step in a larger plan by RFK Jr. He announced it yesterday, and he talked about meeting with these food companies and what him and his staff told those food companies during that meeting in a way that only RFK can do it. He said, listen, if you guys want to keep having these petroleum-based food dyes in your food, well, you're going to have to add them yourselves and not just continue poisoning everybody.
When I met with, and I want to commend the food companies for working with us to achieve this agreement or this settlement. And when I went in a few months or about a month ago to meet with a few food companies, I was talking with my staff about these petroleum-based dyes, and I said if they want to add petroleum, if they want to eat petroleum, they ought to add it themselves at home. But they shouldn't be feeding it to the rest of us. And
amen.
Without our knowledge or consent. And unfortunately, we're going to get rid of the dyes, and then one by one, we're going to get rid of every ingredient and additive in food that we can legally address.
The food dyes is just step one. More to follow. Thank you, RFK. Thank you, HHS. It's just nice finally feeling like we could have some belief in these agencies after years of just looking at them in utter disbelief and shock anytime they would release a statement. It's 11:49 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 11:54, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. The show is brought to you by Better Water LLC.
With no frogs that are gay.
BetterWater.com. Chad Benson's in here. We were just talking about how much we both enjoy Chuck E. Cheese pizza.
It is far better than you realize.
It's so good.
It is.
It shouldn't be as good as it is.
No, not for a big rat making it.
No.
For real. I was like, it's better than Domino's, probably Papa John's.
Yeah, it is. It is so good. You're like, that's sneaky good.
Yeah.
I can come here again. I'm gonna have a little salad bar.
Remember during the pandemic, they had to lie, and what were they? They were like Cousin Tony's or something like that online, so that way people would order their pizza for delivery.
Because it was so good.
So good.
Oh, Chucky. Love me some Chucky.
Shout out to Chucky. Have you ever heard the conspiracy theory about
Of course,
Chuck E.
about
Cheese?
they take the pizza back there, the
and
stuff.
then they reassemble a whole pizza if you leave slices on the platter.
It's lies.
I believe it.
Lies.
And you know what
It's
else?
efficient.
The pizza's so good, I don't even care.
Yeah, well, that's also good. Right?
Put that thing back under the heater. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
So lies. No, Chucky. Aren't they getting rid of? They're not getting rid of the rat, right? You can't get rid of.
I
the
don't
rat.
think so.
I think they're getting rid of the mascot. I think they're doing more, or they're pushing towards it a lot. I've seen a lot more.
They're getting rid of
digital
him?
stuff. Yeah, my friend used to get in the
suit.
The suit, and they've been pushing away from him being out more on the floor.
Really? I thought they were like trying to market him more as a mouse.
Oh, is that what they're trying to do?
Rat.
Oh, instead of a rat, yeah.
Yeah, he's more friendly. Mice, they looked at a couple focus groups.
Mice are the worst critters on the planet.
But they're received better than rats.
Which is weird because when I have a lot of exotic animals, and if I got like 50 mice for my lizards, and I was bringing them home if they were live, because normally I hate feeding live, I like dead, but sometimes they didn't. You'd have 50 by the time you got back. You had 47. They kill and eat. They're cannibals. My rats, you can leave them in there. You get there, there's still all the ones that are there. I hated feeding rats because mice are stupid. They'll walk right up to my giant lizards and just be eaten. Rats know, like, that's not a good thing.
That's not a good look.
That ain't good, right? And I hated feeding rats.
You'd feel guilty.
Yeah, because I'm like, they know what's coming.
Oh.
But they always
you still buy these animals that you have to feed other animals.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I mostly do. I would only do frozen unless it was. I had one or two animals that.
Do you have to defrost the frozen mice before you give them?
Yeah.
Is there a smell associated with it?
No. So but mostly what I would do is I go to the butcher shops somewhere and say, hey, look, I'll take all of your scraps. And they're like, okay, cool, and I give them $20 and they give me 5 pounds of just yuck, and my lizards loved it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
They'd eat fish too. It's really weird. Like nobody cares if you give a live fish to something. No, right? Like we don't, and as people go, that's cruel that you'd feed an animal to another animal. I'm like, what'd you have today? Oh, I had bacon. Oh, really? Is it magic bacon?
Yeah.
No.
That's a good point.
Yeah. See? I saw you had a couple people in here today, man.
Yeah,
I was like, is Chris going to have his own show today or what?
We had Whitlock, and then we had Monty Fritz.
Yeah.
Both big fans of both those guys. You had Whitlock on the other day.
I did. I like.
Jason's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's an interesting character, definitely from sports. He and I were talking about sports because you could still wind him up a little bit of sports. I'm like, hey, let me ask you a question about NIL and Nico, and he's like, all right, here we go.
I did the same thing. I said, so tell me how boring golf is on TV, and he said it's very boring. Very boring.
Golf is great. Golf is fantastic. Love me some golf.
Sign me up for Olympic ping pong before golf.
Well, I like ping pong. Like,
Have you seen the Olympic ping pong?
Oh, it's crazy.
These guys are ninjas.
Those guys are they're like 30 feet off the table.
It's
right?
insane.
I love it. You know what? I obviously pickleball. I'm a big fan of pickleball. You ever watch Padel?
No, what's that?
Paddle, but it's Padel. It is a game where
sounds too fancy
for
me.
It's like pickleball and tennis, but with walls. And so you can smash it off the walls and it goes back over the net, but there's also doorways. So if you hit it over, you can run through the doorway and hit it back. Oh, it's crazy. You should watch it.
Really?
And we have a Padel club here in, which is odd because not many places have them in America. It's mostly like a New York thing, but it's like a big thing in Europe and in South America.
Have you seen Extreme Balloon Ball?
I have not.
Have you ever played the game as a kid, or you keep the balloon up?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I've seen it where they in furniture and stuff.
They have like all these obstacles, and it's two guys versus each other, and there's like a car and a couch, and you have to like dive over obstacles to like keep the balloon up. That's a sport. You talk about sports way above golf.
Have you seen, what was I watching the other day? I was flipping around and something was on, and it's Germany because Germany has a lot of weird things. as we all know. And it was one of those things where a guy is on he's got like a forklift or something, and he's driving to a certain thing, and he's trying to drop like a penny onto something, and it's like there's a crowd there. It's like in an arena.
It's like competitive forklifting?
Yeah, and you're like, what the hell is this? What are you people doing? Have you seen the hobby horsing?
No.
Oh, dude.
What's a hobby horse?
Hobby horse is the stick with the head on it.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
But they do like actual horse stuff.
It is the greatest. I think I could medal.
I just want to do extreme balloon ball.
That'd be cool.
That sounds fun.
We should put a team together here.
We should.
I do extreme balloon ball
every day.
You got to have a blocker. I'll block. Right, Matt and I'll block, and you and the wiry one, Dan, sneaky.
Me and Mandis will keep that thing up. Don't worry. Don't worry.
We'll start throwing blows.
We're going in. What do you got coming up on the show today?
There's nothing but extreme balloon ball. You know what we talk about? 20 years ago today, something culturally happened that changed.
We almost talked about that moments ago, and we forgot about it, Mason.
Mason. But you know what, people? If you don't know what I'm talking about.
Excuse me.
Make sure you like and subscribe on our YouTube channel.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Should I just spoil it?
Go ahead.
Nah, I'm not going to spoil it. Chad will tell you what it is when he gets in.
Ain't got no time for that.
12 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.